The gentleman behind me is Kim Jong-nam. In February 2017, Kim Jong-nam was in a Kuala Lumpur airport where he met a grisly, brutal end. Unbeknownst, I would imagine, unbeknownst to anyone else, two women walk up to him and smear VX nerve agent on his face. Now you'd imagine he did not live much longer after that. The two women apprehended said they thought they were part of a game show, or thought they were part of some kind of game show host, or some kind of game show. There's one tidbit of this that I didn't add out. In fact, two tidbits. One is this gentleman is Kim Jong-un's North Korea leader's half-brother. And two, we find out that he was also a CIA informant. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. And indeed, the story is bizarre and weird, almost like a spy versus spy thing. But yet, the Wall Street Journal is asserting that it's true. And not just asserting that it's true, they've started to double down on it, creating multiple things. I think the last time I looked, I think it was like 30 minutes ago or maybe an hour ago, they just put out a new story at a new angle of this particular story. They're sticking with it. Now, the catch here is that this is somewhat of an anonymous source that is supposedly close to this, and a person that would know. But that's the best that you get. That's what you're stuck with. You're going to have to believe that the source actually does indeed know, and that the Wall Street Journal credibility in asserting that that person knows has to be enough for you. But that said, what they're saying is not insane. What they're saying is not insane at all. Ultimately, what they're arguing is it's not just American intelligence services, meaning the CIA. He was also a potential informant for Chinese, Japan, South Koreans. Essentially, he was open for business. Who would ever give him money and give him cash? But he was in this, and the very least the way they explain it is because he was concerned about the lifestyle that these guys were involved in. I mean, think about it from his perspective. People that you care about and love have a family that is head of essentially a totalitarian state with a guy that can wink a particular way and have you executed. He was looking at this, at least from the way they report it, to try to ensure that his family and so forth would be safe. Again, I always believe that there's always a little bit of self-interest involved in the way that people go about their affairs, but this is not necessarily an insane proposition for me to believe. Let's go a little bit further into the story. So, right here. Kim Jong-nam was Malaysian Kuala Lumpur International Airport as part of a trip to meet a CIA contact when Vietnamese woman Don Thi Hong and Indonesian citizen Siti Aisyah, maybe? Aisyah. Smeared VX nerve toxin on his face. The two women insisted they were unwilling accomplices tricked into believing they were part of a reality TV show prank. This is fascinating. And just to make sure I got this part correct. Kim Jong-un's half-brother, Kim Jong-nam, was informant for the Central Intelligence Agency, who met more than once with unspecified agency operatives before he was killed with VX nerve toxin in a Malaysian airport. February 2017, the Wall Street Journal reported on Monday, albeit citing a person knowledgeable with the matter. I like the way they say albeit, because you are left with just kind of having to take their word for it. You're left with having to take their word for it. Now here's the thing. Some intelligence officials in other countries thought that this guy might be potentially a person who could take power. CIA did not think that, and good on the CIA for not thinking that, because for the most part, the guy was in a position where he was outsider. I mean, he wasn't somebody that was brought up and raised in that particular culture, in that society, like that kind of, he's been at other places, let's say it that way. There's something else. Oh, Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is asked about this. Because keep in mind, Donald Trump is supposedly working with a deal with the North Koreans. Donald Trump has staked a certain degree of credibility on that deal, working out with the North Koreans. The deal is a nonsense proposition. Donald Trump will make no headway on this proposition because he gave no way for other countries to save face. There's a certain amount of hubris in the way that Donald Trump and his cohorts behave, missing the fact that those other countries have people in those countries, and those people have feelings, and those people have a certain degree of sense of self, and they don't necessarily want to be talked down to. And they're certainly not going to take a position that is going to be against their own country's best interests. In this case, nuclear missiles. My point is, the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, is never going to give up those missiles because those missiles ensure his security. And with the United States ripping up agreements here and there, there's no credibility in this process for them to ever do anything so drastic. Trump will get nowhere on that issue. They'll talk to him, but giving up the missiles will never happen. But the point is this. Whether or not the guy could become leader of the country is irrelevant. Was he close enough where he could potentially get information, and maybe even not necessarily get information all the time, just be in a position to know things? Like, proximity in and of itself is a certain reward. So there's certain people who are in intelligence or State Department who are saying, look, we don't necessarily believe this guy would have been somebody who they would have been trying to, we don't believe he would have had anything, nor do we believe he was been in a position of authority. But I don't think that's the point. And the last point, Donald Trump. So Donald Trump, when asked about this, said, not on my watch. This wouldn't happen on my watch. He didn't go so far as to scream fake news at the person, but he did kind of make this point of this wouldn't have happened on my watch. Here's the thing. Donald Trump lies more than any other person that I have known in my life. And that is an astonishing thing because I've known some significant liars in my lifetime. And I'm not talking about people who are well-intentioned liars, who say things and can't necessarily make it. Like, I'm going to keep this one short, and then you go for 4 hours. I'm talking about people who know they were lying when they started off with the lie. There's no reason to believe him. And not even just no reason to believe him. Even if Donald Trump didn't know anything about it, there's no reason to believe that the CIA wouldn't be doing their jobs. It is their job to do exactly that, to try to make that contact. The catch here is whether or not the guy was whacked because he was an asset. I mean, this is kind of those 2 + 2 = 4 things, right? Not to mention he was supposedly at the airport to meet one of his contacts. Looks like there's a fair chance that it was known, his cover was blown, and he was whacked. I'm using the term whack because this does come across more like a mob hit. You can call it an assassination. I mean, but the only difference between those things is one is a state and one is a smaller body of human beings. What does it mean when the state is a totalitarian system and democracy doesn't play a role in the process? All right, I'm going to end this because I don't want to keep this one long. I just thought the story was fascinating to me. But the Wall Street Journal is sticking with the story. The Wall Street Journal is pumping the story pretty hard. Kim Jong-un's half-brother was apparently not just a CIA asset, but an asset of the Chinese, Japan, South Koreans, with this notion of trying to secure for him and his family. I'll leave this here. Thanks all.